I'm very careful about looking at the world through the Western lens. I'm very aware of how they like to present information, and I think that's the whole plan, is to make certain people look more despicable than other people. I'm not talking about Idi Amin specifically. I'm just saying generally. You think about even the word dictator. How many times do you ever hear the word dictator followed by a European name? Yeah. Or an English name, American name? True. They're either African or Arab. When you hear Putin, it's madman. They always put the word madman. You never see George Bush madman. Never. If you saw that, you'd be like, huh? How is George Bush a madman? Yeah. But you see the Russian madman. And you see that a lot with the Idi Amin.
Is that in that's one of the things that the Middle East realized, and that's why they gave birth to Al Jazeera, because they wanted to kind of control their own narrative. Yeah. So whatever news that the Western world put out, they're like, if you don't want to hear the truth, watch Al Jazeera. Correct. And that's why it's like, if you want to hear what's really going on, tune into that. It depends
on, but we also say, when you say what's really going on, it's our interpretation of what's going on. When you look at RT, you know what I mean? That's Russia's version of what's going on. And then you look at the channels we have, it's, it's this version of what's going on.
Is it recording?
Yeah.
No, I'm blessed.
No. Oh, yeah, let's cut that out.
All right, what's happening, people? Welcome to another episode of the Three Shots Tequila podcast with myself, Marvin Abbey. Who else we got in the studio?
Mr. Exposed.
And Tazer Black.
And we got a very, very special guest in the studio. Trendsetter, trailblazer. Don't know how you want to call yourself. What's your name, bro? Where you from, please?
My name is Jedege. I'm a screenwriter from Lagos, Nigeria. Repping Northwest London now.
Aye.
Man, like, for those who don't know, there's something on Amazon Prime, which is called Gangs of Lagos, and he's a writer of that. So we're just going to get into that for the first part. I watched it today. I finished watching it today. And being a Nigerian, a lot of the stuff I saw on there I could kind of resonate with. I didn't live there, but like the way, like the mannerisms, the way people speak, the way they get cussed out, it was dope still. I like the cinematography they call it. Yeah. So just talk us through the story in terms of why you decided to write it, like why was it important for you to write it, and what was the message you were trying to get across with the...
Yeah, absolutely. So Gangs of Lagos is a film that was produced by Jedege, Oshibero, who's a Nigerian filmmaker, brilliant filmmaker, producer, and writer as well. And she hit me up, a couple of years ago, and she said, I've got this idea to do a story about Isale Eko, which is, downtown Lagos, which Isale Eko actually literally means the bottom of Lagos, because it's on the southern end of the map. And she had been on a rooftop years ago, saw a scene while she was shooting something else, and thought, I'd like to write a story about this place. So she hit me up, and as we had that conversation, I was like, 100%. I say no a lot. People always ask, about writing different stories, and I'm always like, But with this one, I was like, yep. I thought it was the right story. I love the world, I love the genre, and I think Jedege is a brilliant producer. So that's how that's how it started a couple of years ago, and then 2023, here we are.
The thing is, in terms of politics in Nigeria, I know it's dangerous anyway, because I remember my dad was getting into politics at one point. Because in Nigeria, if you get into politics, you drive like a white car, innit? And in,
is that a thing?
Yeah. Like if you're like within politics, you get like this white car.
I think big men just drive white cars.
No, but like with no license plate, so that when the army or thingy see you, they know your car's alright, so they let you through.
Yeah.
So I remember like when we went to Abuja, my dad had one of those cars and whatever. But in my mind, I was just like, it's politics. But I remember my mum saying to my dad, I don't like it, it's dangerous. And I remember saying to him, listen, if you pursue this, I'm leaving. I swear. And my dad was like, right. And my mum was like, I'm being serious. Like, it doesn't end well for a lot of people. And like, you have to be involved. My dad wasn't like involved. And my dad's a very nice, pleasant man, innit? So even with Gangs of Lagos, you can see that there's a few underhanded...
You're saying your dad's not Kazim?
Nah, bro.
Ain't got it in him.
Nah, bro. my dad ain't on all that. So my dad's a very like, go to church on Sunday, like, do you know what I'm saying? So with that being said, I remember my mum saying that, and then obviously my dad was like, all right, like, I'll choose you, innit?
Guess not.
So, but then now seeing Gangs of Lagos, I'm like, oh, okay, maybe I kind of get it to an extent. Because even around election time, people say Nigeria gets dangerous.
Yeah.
Like, people don't even want to fly in because they're like, nah, it's very volatile.
Yeah.
So is that one of the messages you were trying to get across with the screenplay, or?
So, to be honest, as a writer, I never tried to preach a sermon.
Okay.
It's staying true to the world and true to the characters. That's the most important thing. Politics in Nigeria is very interesting because, people talk about the mafia in New York or in certain parts of Italy. In Nigeria, it's politics. And politics isn't just about crime. It's also about the fact that where we come from, the politicians are the rock stars. They are. The kids want to be politicians. Even like guys here who grew up here and went to Oxford and Cambridge want to go back to Nigeria to be politicians.
It's true, actually.
It's prestigious, it's lucrative, and it's powerful. So politics plays a very different role in Nigeria than it does in many other places. It's very sexy to be within politics. And in order to get that power and retain that power, there are things that you need to do. So a lot of these politicians are also very gifted. That's why they have so many people who follow them. They also do things that many of us just would never do. Like they're willing to go to certain extents to keep power or to gain power. And you have to sort of respect that. Not in the sense that, we're moralizing and saying, oh yeah, what they're doing is good or bad. We're just saying these guys are remarkable people. And it's a very interesting world, yeah.
And you think of, politics and, people in positions of power like that. So you think of someone running a country, right? Yeah. When we pick, it's usually a certain type of person that ends up in that position, essentially. But you think of the country as a business, essentially. And when you think of people you want running the country, you think to yourself, I want somebody that has excelled at that level because you are running the business of Nigeria. Yeah. You're running the business of the UK, essentially. And it's crazy because sometimes, people are like, oh, it's always this type of person that's in politics, essentially. But then I think to myself, do I want somebody that hasn't excelled at anything running a country, essentially? Because especially when it's country, you're sitting at the table with other people that have excelled, So you're thinking, we don't want some Eddie guy representing us, and over there they've got all kinds of sharks, And we've just sent over this really, really nice guy, you know what I mean? And they're gonna, send him shop, essentially, you know what I mean? He's sitting in the lobby and they've made decisions already, essentially. But then again, you think that type of person, how is he to, everyone? Because when you think of people that excel to kind of high levels where you think, they have high IQ and low, kind of empathy, essentially, in how they do so. You're like, they are good at this side of things. But the empathy and the emotional side of things is very low. And I think that's where, we get kind of caught up, essentially, because you're like, okay, this person is good at this, but they're bad at, how they are to their people, essentially. Because when I think politics back home is similar, across African countries, essentially, where you look at a lot of, presidents and stuff, you're like, I can see where once upon a time you had the right, intentions. You probably got into this wanting to change things for your people, wanting to do this, wanting to do that, and then power takes over, essentially. When you look at, I was watching a documentary a couple months ago, Idi Amin. When you look at what power did to Idi Amin, essentially. And I when I look at stuff like that, I think to myself, was he that bad before he got into power, or did power turn him into that? You know what I mean? Because when you look at the Idi Amin story, he was a despicable man in terms of some of the stuff he did, essentially. But you also find that there's people that would sing his praises. And that's the scary part. So you're like, how do we, balance this out?
But that's politics in general, though, all around the world. Like, even, I don't know where it was on the BBC. One reporter was talking to, I think it was the president of, Azerbaijan or something like that the other day. And then she was like, you have opposition here. Do they have freedom of speech, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, what? How dare you? He just started reading off all these things that the West have done in regards to putting people in prison for stuff that they done or people that oppose. And it was like, you lot try and push your ideology onto us and it's fine. But then when we want to stand up or say no, because, for example, if you look at Russia, they are banned from the up and coming Olympics
Yeah.
or something like that.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like, all right, cool. I'm not saying what them invading Ukraine is right or wrong. I'm not going to talk on that. But
Yeah.
America invaded Iraq. They've invaded other places. You ain't had no issue with the Olympics.
Russia's banned because of the steroid thing, where the whole
No,
national
it wasn't
team
that.
was
It
on steroids.
wasn't that. Read up on it. It says that it's because of Ukraine.
Yeah, because of the war.
It's because of the war.
No, actually, yeah, no. I think they couldn't play as, you know what I mean, Russia. I think they had another name that they were all competing under, but they couldn't, you know what I mean, any of their trophies or medals they won couldn't go towards.
But it's just selective in terms of, it's like
100%.
whoever's in power, what do they say, the victor writes history or something, I can't remember the saying, whatever.
Yeah.
It is, but there are some people where you're like, the stuff they've done is so heinous, it's hard to hide. You know what I mean? And I feel like where European countries have gotten smarter, you know what I mean, over the last couple of years is, you know what I mean, in terms of what they do and how they do it and how they hide it. Where Idi Amin, like, when I was watching the documentary, there was a situation where he would literally have people cut up and put on display, essentially. And there was one woman he, you know what I mean, had murdered, cut up or whatever. Then he had her body stitched back together and put on display outside, I think it was a hospital or whatever. And he forced her kids and her family to come and see it, essentially. Right. And you know what I mean? That's literally, it's just one of those things when you're like, damn, like, I know other people are wild, but why'd you have to do all of that?
I mean, I hear you, but I think I'm very careful about looking at the world through the Western lens. I'm very aware of how they like to present information. And I think that's the whole plan, is to make certain people look more despicable than other people. I'm not talking about Idi Amin specifically. I'm just saying generally, you think about even the word dictator. How many times do you ever hear the word dictator followed by a European name? Yeah. Or an English name, American name?
True.
They're either African or Arab. When you hear Putin, it's madman. They always put the word madman. You never see George Bush madman. Never. If you saw that, you'd be like, huh? How is George Bush a madman? Yeah. But you see the Russian madman. And you see that a lot with the Idi Amin.
Is that in that's one of the things that the Middle East realized, and that's why they gave birth to Al Jazeera, because they wanted to kind of control their own narrative. Yeah. So whatever news that the Western world put out, they're like, if you don't want to hear the truth, watch Al Jazeera. Correct. And that's why it's like, if you want to hear what's really going on, tune into that. It depends on,
you know, but we also say, you know, when you say what's really going on, it's our interpretation of what's going on. When you look at RT, you know what I mean? That's Russia's version of what's going on. And then you look at the channels we have, it's, you know what I mean? It's this version of what's going on. And I feel like whenever you watch this, you're like, damn, what do I really take? You know, it's you then kind of have to have your kind of own way of kind of discerning between what's what through those.
Going back to Gangs of Lagos, I was having this conversation with my mom because she's seen it as well, I asked her, how real is this? And she said, yep, this is pretty much what's happening. Obviously, minus I don't know about like the, you know, like the fight scenes. I don't know if they're taking shovels to war and machetes, the rifles or that part there. I don't know. But in regards to like the violence, she said, it's exactly.
I trust
like
Nigeria though. Once someone will say, get the gun, I'm getting the shovel, man.
Yeah, I mean,
bring out.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's what Jedege was trying to stick to in terms of authenticity of the story. Is we don't really fight, and that's one of the things that you know we discovered doing the writing for this is it's not as sophisticated in terms of like you think about gunfights in different parts of the world. In street fights in Nigeria, it's anything. So it's lots of sticks, lots of planks, lots of pipes, lots of stones, and that's how the fights are. They're chaotic. And literally it's anything that you can grab. So that's definitely how it is. And actually, that's a good point that you just reminded me of. One of the reasons I knew as well that this was a project I wanted to do was that I asked Jedege, you know, as soon as we started having the conversation, I was like, are we going to have maximum violence in this? And she was like, yeah. Because I was like, look, I've seen these gangster movies in Nigeria where it's just people in rooms having meetings. And you say this guy is a big, you know, criminal kingpin. But all he does is he has meetings and talks about what he's going to do. And I'm like, these stories aren't authentic. If we're talking about a story in Lagos with gangs, it's got to be maximum violence. And she was like, yeah. She leaned into it. I was like, oh yeah, this is the one. I want to write this one.
Because even like the scene in the barbershop, I didn't expect that to happen. I thought it would have been just a thing where they have the conversation, they acknowledge their disrespect, and then they leave, and then they set each other up.
Nah, man, I knew already from the jump, bro.
Wait, I didn't know I was gonna pull it out from.
Brother, from your brother.
It's funny because I think both men were probably thinking the same thing. I don't know, but I suspect that both characters were like, "What's he trying to do?" Because if you notice, both characters are like,
looking at each other. Yeah.
I don't think it was necessarily the plan. But
One thing that I liked as well, is the way that they it was very authentic. The way they dipped in between English and Yoruba, because that's how we actually speak. Because I was watching it with my friend who's Caribbean, and obviously subtitles only, because it's just like when we do, there was no indication as to when we were going to dip into
just
Yoruba.
come into it.
There was no indication. It was just you're just listening to it, but I get it because I understand the language in it. But for people who are watching it, it was so offensive. They're probably thinking, "Wait, what did he say?" Like you'll see like 2 lines, but he's done a whole.
I've never understood that, bro.
It's sick though. I like it.
no, how we talk.
No, yeah, but like, as in growing up, like my mum would just be talking
dig into
Yoruba, then out the blue, she'll just say something English. Then Yoruba, then like one line of English, and it's just like, it's weird because Spanish people don't do that. French people don't really do that. It's just, if you're speaking French, you're speaking French.
That's an interesting observation because my mom will have a whole conversation with me Yoruba, and the whole time I'm responding in English. Yeah. But she's speaking Yoruba. Like it doesn't break the flow. It's just normal.
It's literally.
No, I'm talking about like in that convo, your mum might say something in English, but carry on speaking Yoruba, then dip into English, and then do you know what I'm saying?
I've started doing that the older I've gotten.
Yeah, I think it's an African thing essentially, because even when I speak with my dad, my cousins, essentially, like you don't even notice you switch between however many languages essentially.
I do it with my friends now.
Through that, well, you speak.
I'm like,
someone asked me, what language do you think in? And it caught me off guard because I was like, I don't know.
No, I think in English.
You think in words?
No, but I
think
don't
in
know.
words, bro.
I think in English though.
I think in English.
I don't think, but that doesn't make sense.
It does, because I'll break down the Yoruba into English.
No, but do you know, it doesn't, do you know what I'm saying it doesn't make sense here is because when you're hearing Yoruba, it's just words going into your head.
Yeah, but I'm translating in English in my head to understand it.
You're saying you're translating it, but I don't know. I just think it's just words in your head.
The words are English, bro.
No.
You guys grew up here.
Yeah.
Like you were born here. Yeah. So maybe that's what it is.
I don't think it's. I hear what you're saying.
I think in English.
Because you're processing it like that, but it's generally like words. It's just words.
Do you know what's interesting? I've heard recently that we all think completely differently. Like somebody asked me, like, how do you think? And I was like, I think in a voice.
Yeah, some people don't have voices.
And they were like, huh?
The way you process stuff.
Yeah, and they were like, and the lady was like, what? You think in words? Like, that's not how I think. So I think people literally
differently.
No, you think of a voice in your head.
Yeah, like when I'm thinking, my there's a voice in my head.
Yeah, some people don't have voices. Yeah.
Do you not have a voice?
Yeah, I got a voice.
Okay.
I talk to myself bare.
Yeah.
But not like.
Would you say I or do you say we in your head when you're talking about yourself?
What is
Think
that?
very carefully about how you answer that question.
So if I'm in my house, and what, like I've got something to do.
Do you say we've got
I had to wash the plates.
Or do you say I've got to do this?
You can't say we. Who?
I say
What?
we. I say we in my head.
We?
Yeah.
What do you mean we?
Like, oh man, let's go.
How many of you are this?
I know, that's how I think though.
No, I get what you mean though. I get what you mean. I don't. Do you know? I've never thought. I've got to come back to you on that because I know I talk to myself though. Like as in, like, I'll be like,
I talk to myself all the time.
I've got to do this thing now, man. No, I think it's I got to do this. I got to do this job. Man, I got to do these plates. Marv, get yourself together. Come on, man, get up. Like I can't. I don't know how people don't talk to themselves.
Yeah, some people don't.
But technically, it might be they are talking to themselves, but they're not talking to. It's just
in
words
their
in their head.
It's so trippy, man.
Do you know what I'm saying? When you think about it.
Yeah.
Another thing that I'd say in regards to the movie is very authentic. Like, again, like I said, I watched it with someone who's from the Caribbean, and I can't remember what scene it was, but there's a guy comes in and he prostrates all the way, full press up.
Yeah.
And then
that's a real dude. If you're doing that, that's a real dude, bro.
She was like, why is he doing the press up in the middle of the scene? I'm like, that's how you greet
respect.
an elder. She's like,
nah, but not any elder though.
Yeah,
full
prostrate, flanking.
When you're doing that, because normally the prostrate is just like you just touch your thingy, but when you're doing the full,
no, but it also depends on
the reverence that you have for the person.
Yeah, because what there's another. The movie's sick. There's another part here where when they first go into the barbershop, there's the group of guys outside,
Yeah.
No matter what, have you noticed? No matter what you're doing, yeah. If someone of respect walks, you break your conversation and you show respect until they tell you, okay, cool, I'm done, sit down, and then you continue with what you're doing.
But even when you're talking,
It's just natural. You don't think about it.
Yeah.
It's just natural.
No,
like my dad walked into the room, we all stopped to be like, hello,
immediately.
and then it's like, no, continue, and then you continue.
Yeah, then he has to tell you. It's all right. They love that one still. Do you know what it is? I think it's like a not ego
It's a sign
thing.
of, it's a sign of respect, though.
It is, but it's like I think that's why mum and dad like Nigeria, because it's like when they're here, people talk to them like they're your mates. In Nigeria, no matter who you are, like age is.
It's a big thing.
Obviously, the only thing that trumps age is money and power. Like if you got money and power, then technically it's kind of like someone. Yeah, if you go to the village and someone's old there. But they're poor, and you're younger than them, you have money, but they'll be singing your prayers and like
that's
you know what I'm saying? That's the only thing that trumps it.
That's a recent thing, though. I think
that would throw me off, though. Someone older than me prostrates.
Yeah, that's why
because I'm not prostrate,
it's
but it's
natural to us.
Yeah.
Like you're saying, you don't have man right now say big bro, and you're like you older than me.
Yeah. But you know, like
Big bro.
culturally, like the Yoruba people respect their elders, and even you might call it worship their ancestors. In terms of mythology, not necessarily religion, but you look at your ancestors, like they're great people, and that translates, of course, to your parents, because your parents are like the last rung of your ancestors, right? And that reverence is really, really important to put into a story like this, or was really important to put in a story like this, because what we also forget is, I mean, a lot of times you see like politicians and stuff, and you see people around them like, prostrating, revering them. And we've got this idea that, these guys are all psychophants. They're just, trying to, kiss the guy's butt because he's got money. But there's a real deep cultural thing, which is why in the film it talks about Elinio, the owners of men. Because you think about a guy who takes care of an entire place. And that's why they're so powerful during the elections. Because people respect them. And that's the thing about an Elinio, is this guy can command 100 men because they're not trying to...
They believe in him.
Yeah, they believe in him because he takes care of them. And that's a deep thing in Yoruba culture. So I'm glad like you felt that, because I thought Jadi did a great job of putting that, onto screen. I wasn't sure what that would turn out like.
But is that... I guess this is me speaking from the perspective of someone who was born here.
Yeah.
Would you say that's a bit problematic in the sense that when the guy realized that, nah, man, the way this guy is kind of like running us is wrong, and then wanting to give pushback, you felt like, is that the reason why? Because I heard that...
Don't spoil it, though.
No, I'm just saying, my mom said that it wasn't received very well in Nigeria because of, like, you're exposing, I guess... They want to ignore that those things are happening in Nigeria.
It's number one in Nigeria, bro.
No. I'm not saying. I'm not saying it's not.
Man said, talk to me now.
No. I know. I know exactly.
So basically, my mom said that how she saw it. I asked her to send me the video, but she didn't find it in time. Yeah. Apparently, there's a video or there's an article somewhere where there's people have been giving it pushback because essentially you're showing Nigeria in a light that they don't want you to, is what I'm saying.
Some people,
yeah. So some people are arguing that this isn't a true depiction of Nigeria, whereas
I don't even think that's what they're saying. They're saying it's not right that we're doing that to the world. They're not really saying it's not a true depiction. They're saying this is not, you shouldn't be talking about where you come from.
Like this is ours to keep, don't show other people.
It's kind of like China, like when China like doesn't allow certain things to happen, like as in like anything in-house is in-house. Like you don't show the rest of the world what we're doing. Does that make sense? So I think that might be a thing with Nigerians as well. That like it's like don't. It's like the same thing at home. Don't embarrass us.
Yeah. I think.
But it's not an embarrassment though. This is what's happening.
So that's the thing. So it's two specific sort of groups. I think one is a group that is apparently offended by the fact that you've got the Ayo masquerade carrying a gun, and they're saying that's you're desecrating the culture and the tradition of the Ayo. But I was saying to someone the other day, I'm a student of Yoruba mythology and Yoruba culture, and I love the culture. But if you watch the film, you'll find that the characters who dress up as Ayo are not people that the film, the story is saying are heroes of the film. The story is saying these guys are despicable. Look at what they're doing. They're denigrating the culture. So it's not I think people take stories too literally. Yeah, it's a story, right? And we're not trying to disrespect it. It's like in The Godfather. You've got the priest, the guy who dresses up as a priest and goes to murder the guys at the end of the Godfather film. That's like the Vatican saying, "Oh, why have you got someone wearing a priest collar? Like you're disrespecting the church." You wouldn't play. You wouldn't even think about that, right? So I think people have taken it a little bit too literally. I mean, I understand that people are upset about certain things, but at the end of the day, man, you have to, tell the truth about the world that you're creating. I don't think it's the artist's job to change anything or to present things in a particular way. That's not our job. Our job is to tell stories.
I guess, and you got a big cosign as well, though, because you had the legend, man, Yinka Quadri.
The comedian.
Is he? I mean,
No,
we're all
actor,
comedians,
actor.
man. We're just funny. He's an actor, but he's funny.
Which one? The one that...
All Nigerians are funny.
That's what I'm saying. So I wouldn't say he's a comedian. No.
The mechanic.
No.
Yeah, but that's funny though.
What did you call it? What was he called in the movie, man? The lot. Yeah, that's it. Didn't you recognize him?
Who?
You didn't see him for very long, yeah.
Yeah, he was in there. He was in there quickly.
Which one? The big man.
The real
In
big
the
man.
House, in the big house.
Oh, the one when he went to go and visit the house at the top, and he was like, "This is the real."
Yeah, the guy at the top.
Yeah.
Top dog.
That's a legend. Like he's in any Nollywood movie that you see. He's probably in there. Serious man. But how did he feel about?
I don't know. I mean, he's in the film, right? So yeah, I suspect he didn't. I feel like storytellers and these guys are legends, man. These guys are all storytellers. I think to be honest, it never even crossed my mind that people would see it and be offended by it. It wasn't until after they got offended, I was like, okay, I see, I guess.
Do you know what I like about Nigeria, yeah? It's like, there's no, what's what I'm looking for? There's no expiry date for anyone. Like, that guy you saw at the top of the house, that's Oga. Like, man could be 65, 70. Man could still be, you could be dancing, you could do it. It doesn't, like, no one's going to say, mate, you're too old, check out. No such thing. Yeah. When you see him, you show him respect. He lives nicely, whatever. Whereas, like in the UK, it's a bit different. Like, there's like an expiry date. Like, there's like, you're too old to be doing this. You're too old to be, like, what are you talking about? Whereas in Nigeria, it's like, nah, bro.
You get lively, man.
Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, the older you get is like, the more respect you get, and
100.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
which is very different.
For sure.
Also like the love story as well, how that developed.
Yeah.
And obviously she got sent away to go to school, innit? And then she's come back. So she doesn't know what her dad really gets up to.
You definitely know.
Nah, I don't think she knew until she saw.
Her dad was a bad man.
No, I know, but I don't think she clocked until she saw like how it was damaging her.
Do you know what's funny was when like I don't think the scene was even supposed to be funny when he drops her to the crib at Banana Island.
He got
he
mad.
looked at the balcony. He said, "My father, dad, Ali." Like he's like, "Is this what you're living?" Like, but the way he was vexed. Like, it's like he zoned out and he got vexed.
He got in the car.
No,
you gotta be your driver. Your security.
You switched on it. Hey, money can do that to you still.
He was getting mad.
Yeah.
And cinematography, like you guys were mentioning earlier, I think, it's a film that was shot, really, really well. And it kind of made me think of, when you think of Africa, if you think of great cinema, essentially, I'd say it's usually South Africa, essentially, when you look at South African movies. And I'm not sure how well you know South African movies, because there was a film called Jerusalem. I'm not sure if you
heard about, never saw it.
Really, really, really. And it kind of reminded me of that, essentially, in the way, the kind of story unfolds, and it literally shows, the gritty side of it, the bottom end. Because Jerusalem is literally this guy who grew up in, in the hood, essentially, normal guy or whatever, and he saw how, all of these high-rises in SA were owned by these rich white people. So he found a way to take them over. So he would go in there, get all the tenants to stop paying rent.
Oh, I've seen it.
And then they'd run the price into the ground, and then they go auction, and they'd buy them. And he just kept, buying them up, essentially. And it kind of, that Jerusalem, really, really, and it kind of reminds me of, of that in a sense. And I was like, it's really, really like great storytelling. It's shot very well, essentially. And you know, when you look at, you know, certain films, essentially, you know, you look at something and you think that is as real as it just by looking at it, if that makes sense. Because there's certain things, like you guys were mentioning, things that you look at something and you can relate to it just by looking. You know, and I think, like, visually, have you ever watched a movie, like, or you watch a scene without the volume on and you think to yourself, how does this make me feel? And I can't hear anything. There's certain things you can look at and you think, this looks a certain way. You're like, I don't have to hear anything. You think back to olden cinema where you're like, before they started putting sound in movies and stuff like that, where you're like, you have to tell the story you're telling with just
Charlie Chaplin,
the visuals. Like going all the way back. Just recently, I've not finished it, but I started watching Babylon. I'm not sure if you've seen it, with Margot Robbie.
It's
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Babylon, what's that?
no, it's literally
it's a classic.
yeah, and they've just redone it. You know what I mean? They've just redone it.
Cool.
Essentially,
Babylon.
it's just come out last year.
Classic.
What's that, like Stargate 5?
No. No.
Remember that?
Oh, the new one.
Yeah,
Has that got Clooney in it? Is that
yeah.
the one?
No, it's got Clooney, got
Oh yeah. No. I was thinking
Brad
of a different
Pitt,
film. Yes.
Margot Robbie. You know what I mean? And a lot
Ocean's 11.
No.
No,
What's wrong with the man then?
but even when you see, like, you know what I mean, with them, because there's parts where they're filming a movie essentially, and as they're working on this film, sound gets introduced into movies, and they're stressed now because they're like, we need to keep up.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
So now they're filming this film, but you know the actors they have are great actors without sound, and now they introduce sound, and they're all stressed. You know what I mean? Because they've never acted with words before. You know, you don't know about a script
wow, yeah.
because literally it's just what it was.
That must have been mad growing up, though.
Yeah, but you know, it was telling. Yeah, it's telling a story without saying anything, and I think that's what I liked about when I was watching some of the visuals from this, and I was like, you know what I mean? Just the visuals alone tell a story, and you don't even have to hear what it is, and you can relate to what you see.
Because I think I was watching I think I was watching a program on BBC about the two Ronnies. I think it was two Ronnies or something like that. And then they were saying that, like, they started on the BBC in black and white. Then obviously, I don't know whether that was the first show that was shown in colour on the BBC on a Saturday night. But they said the difference between the black and white and the colour was, like, amazing. Because obviously you had to watch. When it was black and white, you couldn't wear certain colours because it doesn't show up.
The grading,
The grading. But then when it's colour now, you can wear more colours, and then what colours people associate to trust, what colours people, do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's a whole science.
So they had to think about a whole new thing. And remember, some people didn't have TV. I mean, some people didn't have colour TV. So you had to bear in mind who had black and white. So you were, like, stuck in between. But, like, as Keith said, it's funny how sound got introduced, black and white, colour TV. There's all these different things that got introduced to TV. Like, it must have been mad.
I think sound came in before color. Yeah, sound
Had to.
Yeah, it would have. Yeah, it would have.
But in terms of just to round up Gangs of Lagos, even, like, I feel like a lot of the parts that were emotive and emotional, they had me still. Like, I don't want to spoil it for people, but there were certain
What's
scenes.
your favourite scene? Okay, favorite character. That's an easier question.
Like, the main guy.
Yeah? Who's your favorite?
Same thing, main guy.
Yeah, main
Why
guy.
did you choose his name, by the way?
Choose who?
His name,
Whose name?
main character. Yeah.
That was Jedege. So I actually wrote a different name,
Okay.
but Jedege wanted him to have that name because the name basically means the future king. And from day one, she was, she liked that name. And I have to give a big shout out to Jedege, man. She's very, very clear about
What
the
she wants
stories
and
that she wants to tell.
Because my name is Oluwatoba Akonde. So
Really?
So when I heard him say his name, I was like, oh.
Oh, that's crazy.
His
Wow.
his name is Obaloba.
Obalola.
Obalola Akonde. So when he
Yeah,
said it
yeah,
in the
yeah.
car, I was like, he's even got my
Oh,
name's
that's
last
crazy. I
name.
have to tell Jedege this, man. She'll be really excited. But yeah, no, so that was all
Solid last
Jedege.
name.
And she knew that she wanted that actor.
Okay.
Like, even before we...
No,
I'm really, really...
he smashes
proud
the
of her,
role.
yeah.
Even the way he's
he's a
around the
star.
dad. Because that's how people are. When there's a serious man around, you don't show any emotion. As in, like, when he asks you questions, you answer. I'm looking after my daughter. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Like, there's no... You know, like here, for example, if you're cool with someone, there might be lines blurred where you might crack a joke with, man.
No.
In Nigeria, there's no... Brother, joke with no way, bro. It's very much like, yes, sir. Yes, sir. No, sir.
The
Yes,
guy's
sir.
a star, man.
That's it. Yeah, now he was sick still. The way
He's a star. He's gonna do amazing things.
The only part that I had, there's two parts I had a gripe with, yeah. This is just me being transparent and honest, yeah. There's the club scene.
Yeah.
When they have a standoff.
Yeah.
He holds the rifle behind him and then he turns around and the rifle hits him. I'm like, yo, that's not supposed to happen.
No, but the thing is, the reason I like it, is because
It's Nigeria.
it will happen,
Yeah,
bro.
well, yeah.
It will happen. Even at one point in time when I can't remember the lead guy's name. Yeah, he comes home and slams the fridge. Doesn't
And
slam.
he
Does it 3 times.
I thought that was genius that she left it.
Brother,
in there.
because that's
what happens, isn't it?
Yeah.
on a date. When you're knackered, and you get home sometimes, like you might take your shoe off and you fall over. Like you might slam the door. You know, like you might talk to your fridge. Hey, behave, you know.
Yeah.
And you slam the fridge. But
Yeah.
that's
And
what
I
really
think-
happened.
You do this talking
I don't wanna
to
speak-
yourself and inanimate objects a lot.
But you know, I've been mad from day.
I don't want to speak for Jaddy, but I suspect that that's also like sort of part of the scene. Is this guy's got this janky fridge that won't even
Close properly.
close.
And he's a guy that's making the money, technically making the money for my man.
Yeah.
And he's living, look where he's living.
Yeah.
That's why he was so vexed when he got to the door.
Yeah,
He was
yeah.
like, what?
They said 30 people can't live in there. I
Even
think
when-
that scene was the best for me.
Even when they call the names, like when, you know, like when, I don't want to spoil it, but when he sees him, he's like, you're your father's son. But the way he calls him over, even that bit
Oh,
is
in the
funny.
beginning, yeah.
When we go to the police, he's gone, I leave, man.
Oh, yeah.
That's how it is.
Listen, man said, like, you came in to report, but you went police first. Leave.
Yeah, it's done.
No,
There's a code.
Even the like seeing how congested some of these roads are.
It's mad.
Oh my god! I was like, yeah, this is. I need to go back. I ain't been since I was 16 in it.
Oh man, you need to
Yeah,
go,
I
man.
need to go back. I definitely need to go back.
still.
Nigeria is really really interesting place. Man.
Yeah.
It's paradise, man. I was in Lagos over the holidays, like Christmas and New Year, and I was looking at everything. I'm just like, we've got everything here, literally. And the people are just so electric. Like Nigerians are funny. Everybody's funny. If you just sat outside somewhere, just watching people, you'd laugh like 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
within,
Whether it's,
a few minutes.
whether it's an argument, it's funny.
Yeah.
Whether it's someone that's telling a story,
Yeah,
it's
just
funny.
describing people,
Someone
yeah.
in church, is like Nigerians are just melodramatic. I don't know what it is, but it's just melodramatic people. Do you know what I'm
Nigerians are
saying?
Even when they I don't want to spoil it.
No.
My favorite guy is Terrible, right?
I was just gonna mention.
And I don't think he was trying to be funny.
Terrible's hat was wavy though. That bucket hat, the black PVC thing. Hey, when he's in the boat and he said, she took something and then she's gone, I'm at your yellow teeth. He's like, hey, watch yourself, Watch yourself. Listen.
Don't play with me.
Hey,
I'm
no,
not
no,
one of
no.
them. I'm not
Man
one of them boys.
got even when the part where they go to he takes them to go get the stuff. I'm not gonna say what. Yeah, because if I tell you, would you? I know me now. I said, you idiot. They're going to kill you. What do you mean? Yeah, but even like, because do you know what it is? I would love people to understand Yoruba and watch it, because where they use Yoruba is perfect timing. Because I'm sitting there saying it in my head that this is the part where he's gonna say this. Even when they go to where they set him up with the prostitute.
My man's gonna tell the whole.
Brother.
I'm like that. I'm like that still. I'm like
What
that.
the-
He'll tell the whole film.
Man.
Even
I'm
people
not-
that
I'm not
meet you
good.
for the first time.
I'm not good at
Do you
telling.
know how mad that is?
Repeating.
Do you know how mad that is? You met him the first time, yeah?
I'm the
and you
spoiler
know
guy.
he's a spoiler, bro. That's what I'm trying to
See,
say.
Taser?
That's what I'm trying to
Alright,
say.
let's
to your
wrap
brother.
up. We have to wrap it up then. We have to wrap it up.
Because
then.
him there, he'll give the whole, you know what I
You have to
mean?
wrap it
People
up,
will
yeah.
watch, if he tells it, people will watch.
It's a great movie. It's all right.
For me personally, as a Nigerian, it resonated more because I'm a Nigerian. But for people who are not Nigerians, the storyline alone will resonate with you because it's emotive. As I said, there's scenes that had me. That I'm not gonna lie. That I was just like raw, like wait, they ain't a tear in my eye. Like what? Big man, like there was scenes like that kind of, yeah. So it's kind of like, as you said, it's like a Nigerian mafia film, but it's not. But it is. But with more to it. But yeah, watch it anyway.
No, it's interesting. It's interesting. It's funny because I've also been kind of catching up with, Nigerians have, a big mafia of their own in Italy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's called, I think it's the Black Hand. They're called in
Black Axe.
Black Axe.
Yeah, I know
That's
that.
what it
It's what you say, Italy,
Yeah.
Madrid. Remember that Madrid?
Classic scene. You know what I mean? But yeah, they literally have massive, kind of presence in Italy.
In what part did you say?
In Italy.
Oh, but in what part though?
I'm not sure
Okay,
part of
They're
Italy.
all over the country.
Yeah, but they are literally like, it's crazy to think they could have taken such a hold essentially, but they have a massive, massive hold in in Italy. Yes, the Black Axe essentially.
Black Axe.
Black Axe. You know.
Nigerians are everywhere, bro. Everywhere.
Every country.
You know what I mean?
I don't know what topic was trending on the timeline where Nigerians were just submitting videos of them in different countries, and there was one that stood out in particular. It was a old Nigerian man in it was in Canada somewhere, but like the cold part, and he's walking to work. And he's just saying, listen, as Nigeria, you just gotta get your hustle on, man. You see me, look, my bed, snow, everything, but we're making money. If you see the way where this guy's walking through, and he's trying to tell people to come, I said, there is no way. He said, the only reason I'm here is because there's money here. Yeah. Anywhere there's money, everywhere. Nigerians are there.
Nigerians, they do not have a problem with traveling, bro. Yeah. Like, Nigerians do not.
The opportunity is there to make money. They're there.
Resilient people, man.
Gone.
Resilient people.
Yeah, sure. They're actually in South Africa. It's funny. It's not funny because it's a gang, but if you hear what the name of the Nigerian gang is in South Africa, it's bloody hilarious because you're like, really, guys? Couldn't get more creative? It's called Boko Haram. You know, really? But it's not Boko Haram in its state. Essentially, it's just a different. You know, what I mean, it's just Boko Haram. You know, what I mean, it's just an essay version. It's just a gang. It's not like I Boko Haram back home, if you think about it. And I was like,
that's crazy.
You know what I mean? Yeah, it's crazy. And you think
there's lots of Nigerians doing great things around the world too, man.
Yeah, 100%.
Doctors, lawyers.
Everywhere. And it's funny because there was a conversation about that where you look at that when you think of, Africans, around the world, essentially, you do find that in, kind of positions of, power, essentially, where doctors and stuff like that. There's a high, there's a high number of West Africans, mostly Nigerians, essentially.
Yeah, for sure.
So
I think in America, I think that is the most educated group.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think it's Nigerian women and then Nigerian men.
Yeah. Right. And the guy was like,
lots of doctors,
it was a South African guy who was talking about it, and it's like back home, we have a lot of, kind of talented people essentially, but because there isn't enough opportunity for them, you found a lot of people just moving out of the country essentially, and then going to different places, and then people maybe coming back home at a later stage essentially because, in your prime years, you're like, there's nothing for us to do. There's not many ways for us to earn over here. So for a lot of people, it's like, well, because when you go back home now, you find people with degrees, with menial jobs essentially, where they're like, I have this degree, I've gone to uni, I've done X, Y, Z, but I can barely.
Very educated people.
Yeah, extremely. Extremely.
I think it's just within us anyway, just to. The way we've been raised is just like your parents kind of told you, like, education is important.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, it's something that can't be taken away from you.
Yeah,
like, people can take whatever they want. They can take your house, they can take whatever. But once you're educated or you have intelligence or knowledge, it can't be taken away from you. So I feel like that's why.
Before I continue spoiling, I just want to say, go check it out, Amazon Prime, Gangs of Lagos.
Run it up.
Go watch that. Let us know your feedback on the Spotify. What's that section called?
Yeah, so basically on the Spotify, you can comment. You can leave comments. There's a poll as well. But it depends on what we're spoken about. So if there's something we speak about on the episode that is a poll, like, for example, 50 Cent, Lil Wayne. Like, for example, last week's... do you know, it was we really...
Yeah, but I'm saying for the first part of the podcast, leave your feedback. Go watch the movie and then leave your feedback in the comment section on Spotify. So, yeah.